This is PTV World. I am SYED SHABAHAT and you're watching Fault Lines. This has been a monumental week, not only for Pakistan, but also for many other observers who are observing the security situation of this part of the world. Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan not only tried to cross the border in the sweet and beautiful valley of Chitral, but also tried to make a holdout in that location and fortunately found Pakistan's military extremely prepared. Not only TTP's attack was met with brute force from Pakistan's side, but also it was reminded to TTP that every time they try to make such an adventure, they will be met with an iron hand. On the other side, Pakistan's law enforcement agencies have reminded the government of their resolve to meet with full throttle, with full force to all these smugglers who are involved in the smuggling of US dollars. And apparently this also looks associated with Pakistan's increasing concern with regards to Afghanistan, because according to many unofficial reports, the dollar smuggling is also interlinked with Afghanistan and with the black market that is thriving on this smuggling of USDs. And lastly, Tehreek-e-Taliban's nexus with TTA, Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan and Tehreek-e-Taliban Afghanistan's nexus still remains to be a gross concern for Pakistan. All of this in today's Fault Lines. Team Fault Lines have prepared a package. Watch the package before I bring my first guest to the program.
Pakistan is grappling with an increase in militant attacks emanating from across the border. Today's terrorist threat is more ideologically diverse and geographically diffuse than that of 2 decades ago. In a recent report, the UN Security Council's Counterterrorism Committee classified South Asia as a high-threat region with several states suffering attacks. Amid heightened threat environment, 12 terrorists were killed who attacked 2 Pakistani military posts located closer to Pakistan-Afghanistan border in the general area of Kalash, District Chitral. According to the ISPR, a large group of terrorists equipped with the latest weapons attacked 2 Pakistani military posts in the area. The valiant soldiers fought bravely and repulsed the attacks, inflicting heavy casualties to the terrorists. During the intense exchange of fire, 4 brave soldiers, having fought gallantly, embraced Shahadat. At least 2 people, including a Frontier Corps official, were injured when a gun battle erupted between Pakistan and Afghan border forces, shutting the busiest trade crossing between the 2 countries at Turkham. Separately, 5 terrorists of the bandit TTP were killed during an operation by the Balochistan Counter-Terrorism Department. Caretaker Prime Minister Anwarul Haq Kakar has reaffirmed Pakistan's unshakable resolve to eradicate terrorism. It is pertinent to mention here that the interim Afghan government is expected to fulfill its obligations and deny the use of Afghan soil by terrorists for perpetuating the acts of terrorism against Pakistan.
Ladies and gentlemen, to join me in the first part of this program is my guest, Major General Retired Anamul Haq, who is a writer, defense analyst, and also an expert of Afghan affairs. General Anam, I welcome you to the show.
Thank you, Shahbaz.
First things first, so Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan still trying to make some inroads, still trying to create some havoc for Pakistan security agencies. It's not very clear what exactly TTP is trying to accomplish by all such follies.
Thank you, Shahbaz. I've been saying it consistently that Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan is in a hurry to broker a peace with the government of Pakistan, and they are forcing the government of Pakistan to come to the negotiating tables, because they also understand that there is a limit to the Afghan hospitality, and the Afghan hospitality may run out sooner than later. So they want to have some sort of a reconciliation on some sort of favorable terms with the government of Pakistan. In such negotiations, generally the military tactics is used as a pressure. So this is, I see it in that context, that these incursions, right, left, and center, are part of their military strategy. We also have to understand that Tehreek-e-Taliban of Pakistan is not a monolith. There are various elements within the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, and there is a cadre, low-ranking cadre within the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, who still think that probably they can go for a military solution with the state of Pakistan. So these various competing influences force the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan to come up with the activity like this inside Pakistan. Yeah.
General Saab, are they still living in the utopia where they enjoyed control in various geographical pockets inside Pakistan? And do you believe are they still looking for some hold on ground in some pockets? Or is it all just meant to create some disturbance for the law enforcement agencies, as you have rightly pointed out? What exactly do you think they want to accomplish?
Uh, Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, at the time of ascension of Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan to power after the withdrawal of the Western forces, they have captured a lot of newly sophisticated new arms and ammunition. So that is also a factor which somehow or the other bolsters their confidence against the state of Pakistan. Number two, for the last 2 years, they have been enjoying hospitality on the Afghan soil without any serious hindrances from the Afghan government side. So that is also a factor which contributes towards their confidence. However, as I mentioned earlier, these are just the last size of the move, and they would keep doing this. We don't have to overreact to this situation, and we have to meet this with very, very iron hand. So, in my opinion, this is a division within the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan itself. The newly merged district cadre of the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan is there for violation of their Khawra by the state of Pakistan. That is why they rose against Pakistan. The Khyber component is criminal component. The Orakzai agency and the Kurum agency component is more nihilist. They follow nihilist ideologies. The Swat Bajawad and the northern NMD component of the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan is basically for Sharia. So it is not a monolith. It doesn't speak with one voice. So these can be the desperate acts by the desperate groups within the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan to rock the boat, and as I mentioned earlier, just to use it as a pressure tactics. They also understand that there is a limit to their military success. The state of Pakistan is not weak. The state of Pakistan is very cohesive. The state of Pakistan can come up with much more robust response than it already is doing. Okay.
Uh, Unlike many other critics, unlike many other experts, you seem to be a bit optimistic when it comes to TTA. That's my personal observation out of the comments that I read frequently. So, don't you believe that TTP is using or is being used by TTA as a tool to leverage with government of Pakistan to negotiate better terms, because there are many areas where TTA is looking for more cooperation, or they have perhaps higher expectations from Pakistan. Would you agree with me on that?
My locus standi on this has always been that the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan is a bone stuck in the neck of the Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan. They can't swallow it, they can't take it out now. And this will ultimately become a bone really stuck in the neck. Why I say that? There are three reasons that I've been repeating all over. First and foremost reason is that with GTP on the Afghan soil, Islamic Emirate cannot extend its sovereignty all over Afghanistan, which they would not like. They would like to have their sovereignty all over Afghanistan. The second reason is that it is an armed force on the Afghan soil, and this force has the potential of playing a spoiler in the internecine fighting within the Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan if and when such a situation arises. So that is a threat, a reality that the Islamic Emirate forces and the stakeholders are very conscious of. And the third reason is that they also understand that this particular irritant has the potential of spoiling their relationship with Pakistan badly, Pakistan is their only interlocutor in this region. We have sociological, we have historical, we have economic, and we have demographic linkages with Afghanistan, and they understand those things. So, because of those reasons, I am very optimistic that the Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan wants to get rid of this legacy issue. The TTP is a legacy issue. However, having said that, there are also divisions inside the Islamic Emirate over the TTP issue. So that makes the thing a little complicated. And that is why my own recommended course of action is just to give time to this issue. This issue will die down with time. Jay.
My last question, General Saab, there are many who are commenting or who are of the view that Pakistan should consider uh, an action inside Afghanistan, on Afghan soil against TTP if the things cannot be managed otherwise. So, as an expert of the subject and also with your background from the military in the past, do you believe this to be a viable solution for the state of Pakistan?
Shabahat, there are two parts of this particular question. One is the factual situation, and the second is the response. So let me say the fact. What the factual situation is. The factual situation is that the United Nations Charter allows a state to undertake military actions against another state from which it faces military threat, a threat which is existential to its that particular threat. So states are allowed to take military action against state from where they feel threat. It was the same clause under which the India took action inside the erstwhile East Pakistan. So this is the factual situation. As far as the response from the Pakistani side is concerned, we should take action against the Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan on Afghan soil if there is a capability and capacity issue with the Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan. However, this particular action should be in confidence with the Islamic Emirate stakeholders. It should be based on intelligence and it should be without making any noise. We have this habit of making a lot of noise when something like that comes. As they say in English, you got to do what you got to do. Jay.
Thank you very much, Major General Retired Anamul Haq Saab, for being guest in our show.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, this was Major General Retired Anamul Haq Sahab, who was commenting on my questions, and there were two very important points that he has made. The first and foremost is that he expressed the problem that TTA, Tehrik-e-Taliban Afghanistan, have today with TTP. He believes this to be a bone stuck in the throat, in the neck of TTA. TTA cannot swallow it, TTA cannot spit it out. And because of this reason, perhaps, he sees differences growing in between these two organizations, which he believes will also cause further problem with TTP. And TTP, he believes, will keep making efforts to bring government of Pakistan back on negotiations table. However, if you just remember the demands that TTP had set forth before, while the government of Pakistan was in negotiations with them, the first condition was taking erstwhile FATA back to FCR, which was a rule made in 1901, and to make it again FATA, which Pakistan was of the view should not be done. To talk further about this issue, I have now invited one of my favorite experts on this issue, Syed Muhammad Ali, who's a defense analyst and speaks fluently on this subject. Ali, I welcome you to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Ali, first things first, so is Tehrik-e-Taliban Afghanistan today capable of maintaining control on the soil of Afghanistan? Because every time government of Pakistan takes it up, what they say apparently gives us a gesture as if they are not in entire control of the situation. So what is the exact state of affairs with regards to the ground control of TTA in Afghanistan?
I think it's not an issue related only to the capacity. I think there are serious ideological and cultural factors which affect the political will of Afghan Taliban in not meeting Pakistan's very genuine and realistic expectations towards our sovereignty and respecting our territorial integrity. And I was listening to your previous guest, but I would, build it further by contextualizing the current state relations between Kabul and Islamabad into three factors. First, because without understanding these three factors, we cannot understand realistically the state of relations between these two neighboring countries. The first thing is that Afghanistan is not a normal country, and its current regime, which you must have noticed, officially we also do not recognize, and we call it as an interim government, is also not a normal state. Why is that? Because legally and diplomatically, the international community has still not recognized, number one. Number two, to understand relations between TTP and Afghan Taliban, we must know that both outfits share the same school of thought and ideology. So their interests are different, their objectives are different, but that creates a degree of sympathy and cultural affinity, which cannot be neglected. And the third factor is that the ideological leadership of Afghan Taliban a few months ago tried to distance itself from Afghan Taliban by giving a verdict that anybody carrying out any action or irresponsible activity inside Pakistan will not be considered part of their of Afghan Taliban. And secondly, even their funeral will not be attended. However, we have seen these attacks by TTP being carried out against Pakistan. This indicates their limitations. That although Afghan Taliban have attempted to publicly and ideologically distance themselves from TTP, but still there is a clear and consistent absence of political will to physically restrict or restrain them from doing something which could be harmful for Pakistan-Afghan relations. And I think that is a more realistic way to look at the current state of these two countries' relations. Pakistan expects Afghan Taliban to ensure its territory is not used against Pakistan. And that is a very realistic expectation from any sovereign country. However, as an independent analyst, I think despite its attempts to distance itself from the criminal and terrorist activities of TTP, I see a clearly lack of political will to crack down and eliminate them or to restrict them from carrying out such activities against Pakistan.
Ali, taking advantage of your presence in the show, I'm going to ask you 4 rapid-fire questions, and I would want you to respond in a minute to each, because that will help us to have a bird-eye view at what is happening in the region. Now, first of all, tell me about the comfort that Taliban, that led government or TTA enjoys with Iran, because we have recently seen a military skirmish between the two sides, which apparently tells to a student of political science like myself that all is not well between the two sides.
I think, yes, there is a method to the madness, and there is a baggage and also ideological and geopolitical reasons why, despite some recent attempts to improve relations, I don't see a very close, cordial relations between Tehran and Kabul. And I think this indicates that all the neighboring countries of Afghanistan are finding problems with the behavior and responsibility that they expect the Kabul administration to demonstrate.
Now, let's talk about China. what is TTA's regional plan for China? Because China has a very, very clear agenda for Afghanistan. They want to eliminate the militants that have interest inside Chinese territory, and also they want to put Afghanistan back into the mainstream economy by utilizing the resources. So how is Tehreek-e-Taliban Afghanistan's led government of Afghanistan is behaving with China at the moment, and how comfortable China is with Afghanistan at the moment?
China is not very comfortable also with Taliban for three reasons. China has three core interests which they expect from Kabul administration. First, they want to ensure that the Western influence does not grow again or return to Afghanistan. Secondly, they expect that ETIM and other similar anti-China outfits are denied space and presence in Afghanistan. And thirdly, they are also interested in developing and exploring rare earth minerals like lithium and other precious metals like copper, and some also energy-related projects in Afghanistan. However, their commitment and their investment depends upon Kabul administration's ability to meet their security concerns and meet their security expectations regarding ETIM. I think if Kabul administration does not deliver on that account, perhaps it will also affect Beijing's ability to invest significantly in Afghanistan.
The departure, Ali, my third question in the same sequence. The departure of Ashraf Ghani's led government and the arrival of TTA, how has it dented or affected positively the relationship between Afghanistan and India?
Very interesting question. I think the Indian influence has significantly reduced in Afghanistan after the departure of the Northern Alliance from definitely. However, it is attempting to resume its engagement, and Kabul administration has engaged India. But I do not see the degree of, there will be some normalization, but I don't see the same degree and quality of warmth because of the baggage and the Indian role against Afghan Taliban throughout the, foreign military presence in Afghanistan. So I don't think the current Kabul administration will neglect the Indian destabilizing role in the last 20 years. But obviously, I don't see a revival of hostility as well.
And in the same sequence, the last question with regards to the international holistic look of Afghanistan is the worries of the United States. Ali, I know you follow US foreign policy very closely. Do you actually, a hand on your heart, genuinely find United States concerned about the developments in Afghanistan?
US, I think, has indicated that I used to say, and I still, stand by my position in the last 2 years, that the US policy towards Afghanistan has not changed. US military strategy has changed. It has taken its military presence out, but its interests, its geopolitical interests and geostrategic interests in the containment of China project, in ensuring that terrorism from Afghanistan does not affect its global and regional interests are still there. But American approach, and I do see some possible convergence of interest with Islamabad and Washington as well in that context. However, I do not see a direct military role of the US in the foreseeable future.
Leads me to my last question, and you can respond this to this question in more details. As per your assumptions or as per your statements, you don't find Iran happy, you don't find China happy, you don't find Central Asian republics, you don't find Pakistan, you don't find the United States happy. You are hinting toward a catastrophic failure of TTA's foreign policy, which actually makes Pakistan an extremely important country for Afghanistan. Isn't it right? And if right, why does not TTA understand this?
Very important question. I'll try to briefly answer this. and it is related to my first answer to your first question. For Afghanistan to become a normal country, and for Afghan Taliban to be considered a legitimate, internationally respected government, it needs to meet four expectations. Number one, it needs to have an inclusive political arrangement which is acceptable to the international community in general, but all its neighbors in particular. Number one. Number two, socially, it needs to be tolerant towards minorities and other ethnic groups, and also ladies. That's the social expectation of the international community, including Pakistan. Thirdly, it needs to, most importantly, meet its security commitment towards its neighbors to ensure that it has the capacity, but also, more importantly, the political will that no harm comes to any of its neighbors, particularly Pakistan, from the territory of Afghanistan. Till that commitment is met, I do not see a diplomatic and economic engagement with Afghanistan, and particularly the current regime, in a significant manner from any of its neighbors.
Thank you very much, Syed Muhammad Ali, for being guest in our program. Ladies and gentlemen, this was Syed Muhammad Ali, and he brings a very exciting diplomatic insight of what is happening in Afghanistan. Let me sum it up. So according to him, United States, China, Pakistan, Iran, Central Asian republics, none of the neighboring countries, none of the major regional powers, and we are deliberately not touching upon Russia, we find Russia entirely engaged in Ukraine, is happy with what is happening in Afghanistan, and this makes Pakistan an extremely important country for Afghanistan, and Afghanistan keeps failing on the hopes that Pakistan has made, a recent example of which was attack inside Chitralwari. We'll take a break and we'll join you back with second segment of program. Stay with us.
Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of Dine with World. We have some cold recipes, salads, juices. We're also making a pasta. My favorite segment of the show, sweets and desserts. 3 teaspoons of mojito syrup, ice cubes, lemons. Very nice. Red vinegar. Good. This is really nice. This is our beetroot salad, which is ready to be served. You can make, I think, hundreds of sauces. Yum, yum, yum. Scallops, mussels. I love this about Thai food. Red chilies and everything. You don't want it to burn.
Done.
Wow. Just like the name is very explicit, so seafood lovers don't really care what expressions the fish is giving. So we've also added chicken wings.
Yeah, that's right.
Unlike many other shows, ladies and gentlemen, today's program is dedicated to the recent events that have happened between Pakistan and Afghanistan, with a special focus on TTP. And when it comes to TTP, I never forget to invite one of the leading experts on the militancy, Syed Muhammad Khalid, Director General of Command 11, a famous think tank, joining me from KP Province. Khalid, I welcome you to the show.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure to be with you.
Khalid bhai, in repeatedly many shows you have shown your concern. You have always said TTP will keep trying to push Pakistan in the corner, will try to accomplish more and more, and once again we have another event, a failed adventure, yet it is an endorsement of what you said in my previous shows. It's inconsistency of your previous thoughts. How do you explain what has happened in Chitral?
Well, I think first we need to understand what happened in Chhatral. If you look at what people are saying in social media, there are hundreds of thousands of TTP fighters that have moved into Chetral, which is completely not true. This was a small force of ragtag fighters that had crossed in from Kunar province in Afghanistan. The significance of this attack as compared to previous TTP attacks, Nur Wali Masood, who is the Amir of TTP, moved out of hiding and moved into Nuristan to oversee the operation that was going on in Chatral. Now, inside of Chatral, you will find that a lot of the locals are supporting the Pakistan army and moving military equipment and moving armaments to help out the Pakistan army as they fight the TTP. Now, what we have to understand is this is not just an escalation, this is a test. The TTP is going to keep challenging Pakistan, keep testing us to see how much they can push us. They know they have the support of the Afghan Taliban inside of Afghanistan, no matter what they say, that there is no safe haven inside of Afghanistan. But we have to understand that this is now a kick up in what the TTP is going to push into against Pakistan as a state and as a military.
So they are forcing us to a corner. They're forcing us to take difficult decisions, decisions that we are trying to avoid from quite a long time. Will you agree with me on that?
Agree completely. As I've said previously, my firm belief is that the only solution to this fight right now is to send the Pakistan Air Force across the border into Afghanistan, hit Kunar, hit Nuristan, hit where the TTP camps are, and send a clear message to the Afghan Taliban that we will no longer tolerate this behavior from you. We have been very supportive. We have helped the Afghan people. We have helped the Taliban government. But in return, we have received nothing but a slap in the face, and we've been told lies upon lies upon lies about whether the TTP exists in Afghanistan or not. We are now being pushed into a corner. We are now being pushed into making a decision as whether we should cross the border into Afghanistan and fight the TTP and other insurgent and militant groups inside of Afghanistan. Because the Afghan Taliban refuses to take action against the TTP.
Isn't it insane for TTA not to take decisive action against TTP while Pakistan, when it closes the borders of Chaman and Torkham, as has been the case for last several days, it hits Afghanistan's economy very badly. Not only that, but there are other black businesses with Pakistan's security agencies or law enforcement agencies have started to take an action against. It also hits Afghanistan's economy very badly. So why do we see a lack of wisdom in the ranks and files of TTA?
Well, the problem we have here, again, as I've said previously, the TTA itself is a conglomeration of different groups. On one side, you have the Haqqani group, which is very pro-TTP. They were the ones that forced us to move to the negotiation table and have negotiations with TTP last year. What you have to understand that what's happening right now is you are forcing Pakistan to fence up the border. Today, there was a jarga inside of Chatral. The jarga inside of Chatral has demanded that the army chief visit Chatral, and they have demanded that the border be fenced. What we have to see now is the Pakistani people are now taking a stand, and they are now saying clearly that we are not interested in letting Afghanis across the border, whether they are from the Taliban, whether they are from the FATA region, or whether they are just regular Pakistanis. We also have to keep in mind that roughly 40 to 50 Afghanis have joined the TTP in Takahar province in Afghanistan, and this is a very recent development. Now, what we have to understand is that in the past, in the Ali Masjid attack, we know that that was carried out by Afghanis. We now see the Afghanis are now moving towards the TTP, which means that the Afghan Taliban is losing its own support with its own people. Now, for them, that creates a very serious problem. On one side, economically, Pakistan can strangle you. If we stop exporting into Afghanistan, we will starve the Afghani people because they don't have the crops, they don't have the materials to be able to rebuild their country without Pakistan support. And if Pakistan now turns around and says we are going to take military action, what that does is cause the Afghan Taliban to make a decision as to whether they are going to support their people or whether they're going to support terrorism. To this point, we have seen that the Afghan Taliban's interest is only in fighting ISKP and supporting the TTP. Now, the TTP can at any time pledge allegiance to ISKP or pledge their allegiance to Al Qaeda. Now, for the Taliban in Afghanistan, either choice is destructive for them as a government. What we don't understand is that the Torkham border was closed for almost 6 months. It was reopened just recently, September 1st. The border was reopened. The first truck from China went into Kabul carrying Chinese goods, and all of a sudden we have firing again 5 to 6 days later, and the border is closed again. If this is going to be the problem with Afghanistan, then we need to close the border completely, starve the Afghani people, and force them to make a decision, whether they want to support terrorism or whether they want to support their own country.
Thank you very much, Khalid Bhai, for being guest in our program today. Ladies and gentlemen, we have so far discussed the geopolitical angle. We have discussed the nitty-gritties of TTA and TTP and their deadly mixture together. But remember, there is a strategic angle. There is a political economy involved in it. As it's a very famous saying out of Bill Clinton's campaign, it's the economy, stupid. So in order to discuss the economic and geopolitical aspects between whatever is happening between Pakistan and Afghanistan, I've invited Sultan Ali Haider to be guest in the last segment of my program. Sultan, I welcome you to the show.
Thank you, Shabahat, and also thank you for stealing the thunder. I was going to say it's the economy stupid, but you stole my line.
Sultan, we have seen this development with a great concern in today's show. It's very rare for Fault Lines to do an exclusive show on one subject. Tell us, do you find an economic angle entailed to what we have discussed so far with the viewers?
Yes, so definitely. Just as you recapped, it has to do everything to do with the economy. And you have to understand when people are calculating, what is the price that they are seeking, right? So one price could be for TTP, the price is essentially Pakistan, right? So they are saying that maybe if we can get in, we can get control certain territory. So that is like real estate, right? Taking over certain real estate. But then the other is, how is the Afghan economy working? How is it after the US's exit, right? So all of that dollar flow which was happening in terms of aid, in terms of other things, that has evaporated. So how that is working out. I was recently, there was this report by US Institute for Peace, and it was a very interesting report. It said that opium production cutout is really bad for Afghan farmers and all of that. So in the two provinces where opium production was at its peak, so now it has gone down, what I would say is like more than 90%. So the dollar impact was, for the poor farmers, was more than $1 billion, right? So loss of $1 billion in revenue. Then there was another loss of about $3 billion of aid that would flow in, right? So it's creating a lot of pressures there. So on one side it is that. On the other side, so now when we talk about trade, what is in terms of trade, what is happening? Pakistan's economy has been going through its own turmoil, right? And Afghanistan was, the government was not getting any dollars. So Pakistan government helped them a lot, the interim government. So that created its own problems, because now all of Afghanistan's purchases are happening through Pakistan before closure of the border. But they are not paying in dollars as such, right? So essentially Pakistan imports the goods, gives it to them. So that is creating lot of pressure and load on Pakistan. Pakistan's own population, last point, is around 220, 230 million. Afghanistan's population is around 42 million. So while the other stats may not be available, so an additional load of about 40 million people is on Pakistan's economy. So that is what is creating a lot of...
But Sultan, isn't the trade relationship between Pakistan and Afghanistan is also on the course of redefinition?
Is also, sorry?
On a course of redefinition, it's getting changed, it's getting...
No, that is exactly what is happening. So initially, for Pakistan, when Afghanistan was developing, money was coming in for rebuilding of Afghanistan. So Pakistan also, it was a beneficial trade because Pakistan was able to export, right? So for example, our cement factories were able to export a lot. So, in all of the food items which was getting exported from Pakistan to Afghanistan, Afghanistan was able to pay in US dollars. So, for Pakistan, it was a foreign exchange earning mechanism. Now the situation has reversed, and I think we see that Afghani currency is very strong, right? So some of the steps that Afghan Taliban have taken is that, for example, they have banned use of other currencies for buying goods and services inside Afghanistan. So demand for foreign currencies in Afghanistan has gone down. So demand for Afghani currency, local currency, is high, right? Secondly, when previously what was happening is very interesting. You talk to the market in Peshawar and the banking market and the forex dealers. Previously, the dollar flow was from physical dollar flow was also from Afghanistan to Pakistan. Those connections of informal or illegal at time trade were always there. Now the role has reversed. Now the dollar flow is from Pakistan to Afghanistan. That is again creating problem. Lastly, on this line, all of the imports, all of the exports that Afghanistan is doing. Previously, Pakistan rupee was accepted. So there was a lot of demand of Pakistan rupee in Afghanistan. Now all of that Pakistan rupee is getting dumped back into Pakistan, because when Afghans export, they come in, they say you bring back dollars. So even for all of the goods that are exported, they demand dollars. For perishable goods, they accept rupees, but then they again go into the gold market, and they exchange those rupees for USD, and those USDs are then again exported.
I'm going to read 3 different news items, and we'll quickly comment because we're in the last 2 minutes of the program. Pakistan law enforcement agencies have started crackdown on the illegal money trade, US dollar trade.
Yes.
There's a crackdown on smuggling. There's a crackdown on sugar mafia. Is all 3 of this related to what has happened in Chitral, or what is happening between Pakistan and Afghanistan? Quick comment.
There is a chatter related to that. I had heard that before, because the local economy, that's the last part. Local economy, as we understand, a lot of people in those border areas, they live because of this kind of trade. Globally, anywhere wherever you have high tariffs, in the US and Canada, you would recall when there was prohibition in the US, so alcohol was not allowed in the US, right, in 1920s. So there was a lot of smuggling of alcohol from Canada to the US. So the whole economy pops up, right? Right now, Pakistan is a high tariff environment, right? So there's a lot of incentive to smuggle goods across. So as long as that incentive is there, a lot of people would be working in that economy. Traditionally, we know for the last 30-40 years, lot of local economy works on that. Now when you try to stifle that trade, it creates pressure, which creates reaction. So as previous commentators have talked about, there's so many loose outfits operating there, non-state actors inside Afghanistan. They also get their money through these smuggling operations. So now when we are trying to stifle that, we have taken a series of actions. So for example, confiscation of money, foreign currency in Peshawar, goods not being able to smuggle, right? So that creates pressure on them. So when their money stops, then they get desperate, then they want to try out something new. Again, I'll go back to it's the economic price, right? One comment that I would like to make is that there's an important transition. This cycle will continue, it can never improve unless and until this thing is shown to Afghani people that they can make a lot more money through trade, through legitimate means.
Through legitimate trade. Thank you very much, Sultan. We are running out of time. Thank you very much for being guest at our show. Ladies and gentlemen, as Sultan Ali Haider has rightly pointed out, let me cap this up in one line. Afghanistan's economy respires and is fed through Pakistan's trade channels. And if Pakistan decides to take a stiff action and then to stick to these actions, it will become very difficult for Tehreek-e-Taliban Afghanistan to remain in a dominant control of Afghanistan. They do not have any support from any of the neighboring countries. Pakistan is the only hope that Afghanistan have today, for which they will have either to take a full and final action against the hideouts of TTP or to wait for Pakistan to unilaterally take action inside of Pakistan. We'll join you next week with another program. And until then, Allah Hafiz.